I built a Bengal tiger habitat, but with only 3 pieces allowed. These 3 pieces you see in front of you have been chosen by my community, and I needed to build an entire Bengal tiger habitat. Did you really think you're gonna see it already now? Of course not. Let's get into the video and let me show you how I achieved the final result, which is actually pretty stunning. And in a couple of minutes I'm gonna explain to why I put myself on that challenge. But first things first, we need to do the terraforming. Obviously, the terraforming and the dedicated terraforming painting options are available to me, including water and stuff like that, so I couldn't take that away from me, but I tried to make sure that this is a very good footprint for me to build in. This is the very first thing you need to prepare. I had a certain idea in mind to what kind of habitat I wanted to build, but obviously the idea in mind usually comes from, well, having all the pieces available. And this specific thing over here is also paired with the music you can hear in the background. I wanted to bring myself back into a position, into this mindset, into a feeling that I was missing for over 6 years now. I have founded my channel over 6 years ago, very unintentionally, due to Planet Coaster, and that was in the very early alpha stages. For those of you who've been there, you know the planter, you know the the chimney, you know, everything like that. We had a couple of pieces only, like a very limited palette of pieces, with which people have created absolutely stunning builds. I remember Kukamonda making a fantastic Colosseum, obviously Sylph making an entire main street out of chimneys and, I don't know, 3 concrete pieces, and nothing was flexicolor. We even, like, I have a huge advantage here by having flexicolor, and so I decided to go only with 3 pieces. I think the base version of Planet Coaster had like around 20-ish pieces, but all of them really not being flexicolor and not having the advanced build tool, so I thought to make it somewhat the same level of complication, if that is even an English word, I put myself on the challenge to only have 3. And what I did, I actually asked you guys in my Discord community. So if you are not part of my Discord, I highly recommend to jump into it. I will try to make these challenges more often in the future. And I just randomly asked in the general chat if people can name me 3 assets. And I took 3 random assets from 3 different people who dropped in their choice. There were a couple of other pieces too, which I have tested. And there was one specific pair that has been absurdly complicated and nearly impossible, and that contained one of the modern art pieces, a concrete wall that was basically a stone wall that wasn't flexicolor, and a freaking sequoia tree. I'm not naming the person who came in with the sequoia tree, but just let me tell you, that is impossible. And you'll see why. Also, there have been a couple of issues here with the game. You may have seen a couple of seconds ago, I tried to rotate the little palm tree, the little fern piece. But what turned out to be happening was that they don't have a texture from below. I mean, it doesn't even require a texture from below. Obviously you don't, because it's not rendered usually, if you're not me, who try to use the trunk from the lower side. So I couldn't even use that piece. It was certainly not a piece I could put in a different rotation or whatnot. And so yeah, I ended up using the fern tree as intended, which was a little bit of a downer, because one of 3 pieces already not being able to be abused in a different way makes it 33% harder for me. But if you're still with me in this video, you may actually ask the question to yourself, what the hell is this camel guy doing? And that is a very valid question. Why would I put myself on a challenge like that when I have endless possibilities in the game, including a bajillion amount of pieces? Well, I tell you, you know the success of Minecraft, for example, or Planet Coaster in the first stages, or any other creative building game, very often is down to the limitation of pieces and tools. The more limited things are, the more creative people need to get. And I just had the feeling I needed that, just for a change, just for making my mind and my brain do what it used to do very nicely in the past, and which potentially also shaped this channel to what it is today, you know? I just wanted to show again how it is to really strengthen your muscles, your creative muscles, to really make them work for you. And you've seen what I've really done at the beginning. My approach was to do as many different variations with the pieces as possible, to get an idea of what is possible. And I learned along the way what I could do else. You can see I'm using some of these kind of, I don't even know how these things are called. These are kind of these water tap thingies, but not as ugly as the enrichment item. Also, by the way, the Bengal tiger will not be able to climb, because I figured using enrichment items would be kind of a little trick that I didn't want to go to. There will be some enrichment items in the habitat later on, but only those required to meet their requirements, and nothing else. But as you can tell, I'm trying to use these pieces in as many different ways as possible. And obviously this decoration piece over here, the wonderful tab piece, is the most versatile when it comes to smaller elements like fences and stuff. I'm still very impressed by how many variations of a fence I was able to do, and also how many different variations for roofing I was able to do with the small wall piece. I may add though, obviously, haven't said that in the beginning, that the wall piece I was using was given to me as a 4x4 meter variant. At least that's what people suggest in the Discord channel. However, I must admit, I tried my best, but as the 4x4 usually is only the like for most of the different stone and concrete pieces, it's usually the one with the grid. I could have turned that off obviously with free build, but I didn't want to use free build in any way, just to keep it rather simple. I did use free build later on for the fence placement, but that was just because I needed to put the fence a little bit closer to the pathway, and I just did not want to delete everything again. Hope you can deal with that. If not, well, that's your problem, I guess. But yeah, I also, to make it even more complicated for me, I decided to include a balcony. And honestly, it's already hard enough to get the traversable area right with animals in this game when you have all the pieces available in the world, but it made the whole thing even more hard doing this with only a limited amount of pieces in a, well, fixed size to do that. But I have to admit, it just really made me do what I can do best, I guess, and that is thinking of ways to use pieces that maybe not everyone would see. And honestly, it has been so much fun, and it put me back into the mood. I also listened to the wonderful Planko music you can also hear in the background. I just listened to the full soundtrack again, and I tried to remember how it was, you know, without all of these pieces, without the wonderful gizmo tool we got along the way, without the endless possibilities in FlexiColor, and without, obviously, and I think this is the, like, we tend to forget that, but the biggest plus in terms of being creative and building nicely and realistic of this game are not the pieces. It's the plants, it's the foliage. The foliage is just no comparison to Planet Zoo. When you go back to Planet Coaster, you're first of all looking for the foliage because it doesn't have an own category. The foliage pieces, the bushes and the, you know, trees and stuff, they are within the scenery elements, and they kind of look like scenery rather than actual plants. I mean, they tried to make them actual plants, but just if you compare the pieces themselves, they look very similar to the Planet Zoo versions. But if you look at trees and plants and stuff like that, even though some of them share the same geometry for a certain amount, they are just not comparable whatsoever. And yeah, that is pretty cool. That shows how much of an upgrade you can expect after such a long time. And why would we talk about that? Well, actually, because a similar time frame is what we are looking at for next year's game release. And as we know, it's very, very likely a Planet game, and very, very likely Planet Coaster 2. It's gonna be very interesting to see how much of a step up they have, again, in the Planet engine. I think from now on we should actually relate to the Cobra engine, in this specific case, to the Planet engine, because, you know, graphic-wise, you cannot really compare that to Jurassic World Evolution. Even though Frontier themselves put these games in the same category, they don't really share the same look and feel. So I guess we really have to look at the Planet engine, so to say, and honestly, I'm looking forward to it. But you can see how much I'm using now all the different pieces to create some fences and stuff like that. From now on, it almost feels like building in normal, because I made myself a palette of different pieces that I'm going to use. But remember, these are only these 3 pieces. I did not use a single different piece. I did not. I promise. There is not a single piece in here that is not done with any of those 3 pieces. It's just, I stick to my promise. All things you see inside of the habitat, except obviously the enrichment items later on, are done with those 3 pieces only. And oh boy, am I happy, because I think if I would put this as a riddle out there and would ask people which pieces I've used, I think it's very hard to distinguish. I think it's very hard to get to the idea that this is the tap piece. Obviously you see the fence, the wall piece. That is pretty simple, and yeah, also you'll be able to guess the fern. Honestly, that was the one that just kind of stinked, I guess. That was the one that annoyed me. I really had a couple of ideas in mind how to do more versatile plants and stuff like that. But boy, this plant over here didn't really give me a good time. It just really was impossible to do something amazing with it, because also it's not only that the piece itself doesn't have a geometry from below, so basically you can only use it from above. No, it also doesn't really have a good LOD, which for those of you who don't know is a level of detail. So the further you zoom out, the center trunk also loses its geometry in the center of the piece when you're looking from above. So I always needed to do something to cover the center of the item to not make it invisible there. So that was kind of annoying, and so the only way I found using it is making like a bit of a bigger palm tree out of it, and then like some ground clutter, and also like this big kind of almost Bengal, how's that called again? Not fountain bamboo, Bengal bamboo, kind of the, I don't know how it's called, but like the big bamboo bush thingy. That was the only thing I could do with it. And other than that, I'm absolutely pleased by how it turned out to be looking. Honestly, it's looking a lot better than I expected. It's not quite as good as I was hoping it's gonna look. A couple of things limited me, as I've really outlined enough now, I guess. And yeah, last but not least, it's putting in the fence, and that is the only other piece I was using. Honestly, the only reason I did this is basically to make sure that the animal doesn't escape. That's the sole reason why I did put these things in, and then just change this to different variants, like the electric fence, and also some of the wall pieces being glass now, just to, you know, give it this final touch. But honestly, you know that I haven't used anything else apart from these things. So yeah, let's have a look at the final result now. And here we go with a little flyover of the final result. I must admit, it looks really cool. I think, you know, that's a habitat you can just show to your friends, you know. That's a habitat I think we can all be very happy about, because it just looks good. You know, I don't have a hard feeling about this. Maybe the Bengal style helped to give me the proper foundation to what I wanted to build, but honestly, I can't really, I just kind of made it myself like a little randomized pick to which animal I was going. I just had a list of a couple of animals, and then I just threw a dice, and I was like, okay, it's the Bengal tiger, but like, you know, to make it as coincidental as possible. But you know, I really have to admit, it just looks like a good habitat to me, with a couple of things, and it just looks like in the beta of Planet Zoo maybe how I did my things. Obviously it's not as intricate and realistic as it can be, but I think it also doesn't look any bad, you know. This could be very well in a zoo of mine, so I wouldn't have too many hard feelings. I obviously would add a couple of details and fixes here and there to just make some edges more nice looking. But other than that, this is the final result, also with some rain on it now, but this is it. And now guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think of the video. How do you like this format? Is this something that you find entertaining to watch? And if you would have done this yourself, which 3 pieces would you have taken to give it to me as a challenge? And maybe, you never know, I'm gonna take some of these pieces and do it again. Who knows? But for now, I wish you all a very happy weekend. I hope to talk to you very soon. And if you haven't subbed to the channel and you want to see more of this stuff, please do me a favor and sub to the channel. That will help me out a lot. And now I wish you all a wonderful time. Thank you so much. And now enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Goodbye.